Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our series of Women in Leadership here at the Kerkorian School of Medicine. Joining me today is Dr. Carmen Flores and Dr. Nadia Gomez. So without further ado, Dr. Gomez, tell me about your journey here to the Kerkorian School of Medicine.
Well, I am from Miami, Florida, but I was born and raised in Nicaragua, Central America. So when I first got, to the States, I had to learn English. My parents had to do medical school all over again. So I come from that background, the medical school background. And I just saw their progress and, I got inspired through them to get into medicine. As I went through my schooling, my residency, my fellowship, I really loved teaching and just sharing the knowledge. And so I knew that I wanted to do academia. So as I was graduating fellowship, I started looking for jobs. And, I really wanted to stay in Florida, but as I saw the need for doctors, is truly what drove me to the West Coast. I didn't know anyone. It was the first time I was actually going across the country. But I really saw the opportunity to come here, develop something, really give back to the community, and that's the reason why I chose Las Vegas to practice.
Dr. Flores.
Thank you for having me. So I took a very non-traditional route to medical school. I was born and raised in Southern California. I'm from LA originally. I am a first-generation college student. I grew up in an urban area, not very many resources. And I fought tooth and nail to get into medical school. I worked my way through undergraduate school. I had a full-time job while I was a full-time student during undergrad at UCLA, and graduated and took a post-baccalaureate program over at Fullerton in Cal State Fullerton. And from then on, I went to Chicago for medical school. In between that, I had my first child. And so that presented some challenges, and I had to coordinate my schooling with being a mother and raising my first child and going to the lab in a white coat, 8-9 months pregnant, and got accepted in medical school, to medical school in Chicago. Graduated from medical school and headed over to Arizona where I did my residency. In between medical school and my residency, I had, or prior to medical school, right before it started, I had my son, who is now 14. And then in residency, I had twins.
Surprise?
Surprise! third year of residency, which was very challenging, but very, very rewarding. So yes, surprise, but a great surprise and a grounding surprise. So I after surgery residency, I was very, very interested in trauma. Medical school in Chicago and surgery rotations in Chicago were very, very trauma heavy. I fell in love with trauma and decided to pursue a trauma fellowship at UNLV, and have never looked back and stayed. I enjoyed working with the trauma department and learning and teaching at the same time during fellowship, becoming a leader here. And here I am.
Let's switch and talk about being a mom.
I love it.
Being a mom and a working professional, what does that look like?
Like everything. Some days are good, some days are bad. I feel like, and bad in the sense that I feel like a bad mom, right? As compared to these other moms that have more time. So I can give you an example, like last week, I took my daughter, we were going to school and I was driving her to school, and I was busy trying to pre-op a patient that I had surgery for the same day. And so I didn't have time to make her pancakes. She wanted pancakes. But I told her, Ella, if I make you pancakes, then I can't finish this pre-op. So I explain things to her. Sometimes she walks up to me and I'm watching a video because I'm reviewing. I'm part of a video committee, in my college, and we have review videos. And she comes up to me and I'm like, yes, that's the uterus and that's the ovaries. And my husband's in the back like, what are you doing? And I'm like, nothing, just teaching her the uterus and the ovaries. It's fine, So yeah, some days are good, some days are bad. So I didn't make her pancakes, but guess what? Today I made her pancakes.
And the must have been good, right?
They were good. They were great.
Okay, so you're in charge of driving her to school.
Sometimes we take turns.
We take turns. So what's on the radio?
That's a very good question. A lot of it is Disney,
Okay.
like Mickey Mouse Club, and so
So you know all the songs.
I do, yeah. And then sometimes at night, like it's there in my ear, and but it's nice. I love Disney. I don't know about you, Kirk, but it's like I'm obsessed with.
We're a little older, so it's LOL surprise.
Okay. All right. So if the kids aren't in the car,
Yeah. Then we're talking about Bad Bunny. We're talking about I don't know about little reggaeton. So yeah. So we're doing that.
okay, fair. So I'm going to shift over to you, Dr. Flores.
Yes.
So you're a mom, you're a working professional. What does it look like for you?
So it is a quiet chaos, not very unlike the trauma bay. So we have a very busy household. So being a mother of an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old, and the twins who are approaching 7 years of age now, every day is different. I think early on, after having the twins especially, it was difficult to not be around. You do feel like a bad mom. But I think you evolve into understanding that you're just a different mom, and they look to you. They don't know any different. So they look to you because they see you going to work and they see you working hard. Shortly after having the twins, I went away for a 3-month rotation over in Portland. And my poor saint of a husband left him alone with almost newborn twins. And when I came home, they were calling my daughter, my eldest daughter, Mom. Which was, as you can understand, super heartbreaking.
Yes.
There would be times where I'd come home after a long trauma shift or a long shift, and they'd say, "What are you doing here? You're never here." But I think as they've gotten older, they think it's super cool what I do every day. They understand. They brag on me a lot, which is awesome because I know that they understand. And ultimately, I think, especially my girls, I know that I am their role model, and I am their push to do whatever they see fit in life.
Absolutely.
I love that.
I can agree with that. I think that it's so cool to have. I have 2 little girls, and I love it because I feel like I want to be better for them, right? And I want to be like, in my professional career, advance, succeed. And I'm also like, before it was just like about my accomplishments, like it's my parents and making them proud, But now I have daughters. I want them to really look up to me and be their role model. I can tell you a quick show and tell story that
I'd love to hear it.
So the school, she's in preschool, but they do a lot of things.
Yes.
So, the calendar is like filled up. And we missed the show and tell. So we're supposed to pack something. They have a theme and they have a backpack. And my husband picked her up and she started crying. So I'm like, there was nothing in my book bag for show and tell. So what did we do? No, we put it in our calendar. Like we have a family calendar, and I'm like, we put an alarm the week before, 3 days before. We are not missing another thing.
Not doing that again.
She had a holiday party. We went to the holiday party. Even though these things are randomly in the middle of the day, You're right. Okay, I need to take a PTO day because you have to be there, either myself or you. Yes.
Right. And I think I agree with Dr. Gomez. I think it's the small things that matter to them, being around on those little, days when they have show and tell, or when you've baked them something or bought something at the store because you didn't have time to bake, and they take it to school, or you drop them off. The other day, I was the pancake maker, and I had to make Grinch pancakes because, we went to go eat and they didn't have Grinch pancakes there. So I was, there was a demand to make Grinch pancakes. And those little slots of time that you have with them, I think you cherish more when you're a surgeon and you realize that they're super important. And they cherish it too, I think.
Yeah. I can only imagine. I am not a physician, but when I think about how selfless you have to be in your working professional life and as mothers, I have to think how we switch gears and we talk about self-care and finding your center.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Gomez, what does self-care and finding center look for you?
For me personally, it looks, I always have to listen to my body. So I can give you an example. Like a few days ago, we ran into each other because I was on call like last week, and I saw her, and I was just like, I've had a rough week. Like a lot of emergencies came in, and so I was home like around 7:30 p.m. But I was just tired, like exhausted. And I knew I had to take care of charts. I had to, the girls, they have swim class like around 5:30, 6 p.m., and I was telling my husband I'm not going to make it to the swim class and I'm just exhausted. I said, I'm going to go to bed. That's it. I'm going to go to bed. I don't care if it's 7:30 p.m. I am done. And I am waking up in the morning. So I woke up. So, that's what I do. I listen to my body. I say, okay, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go to bed. And I'm waking up early to kind of finish what I had to do, Other than that, like we spoke about music. I love to dance. That's my escape. I think growing up, like my mom put me in dance when I was like 3 years old. And so I have that background. I actually wanted to be a Broadway dancer. But, my dad was like, no, you're going to college. You're not going to Broadway. I'm not paying for your apartment and your things in New York. He's like, but you will be a dance major and you can study things and, continue. And I actually did. And I actually got hurt with my ankle. And I was like, maybe my dad did have something in his life, So I love to dance. That's my escape. I think that I do a lot of ballroom dancing, a lot of dancing on my own with my girls, like whenever. So that's kind of like my escape. Some people do yoga, meditation. I like to dance.
I love it. Okay. So tell me about what self-care looked like for you?
So it's very, very difficult. And I tend to be very laser focused, and it's very hard for me to turn it off when I get home. It's so hard. And so a lot of times I just need to surround myself with the kids and my husband and say, Mom needs some time. My husband... Decompression. My husband also encourages me a lot and sometimes he'll say, stop. That's enough. Close the computer. We're done today. Yeah. And he is not in medicine, so he doesn't know what he's trying to stop me from doing.
It's a good balance.
Which can be hard.
Probably, maybe.
Right. Which does, it's hard if I have a deadline or if I have a presentation to do or whatever. But I tried to listen to that and say, okay, you're outside looking in and you see what I'm going through right now. So yes, it's time to close the computer. And I honestly love, taking my kids to the park and just getting in the car sometimes and traveling with them just for the day and to decompress, or say, you know what, let's go on a car ride. We're going to go look at Christmas lights, or just interacting with them is kind of how I decompress. I think for alone time, it's just quiet time and sitting with my thoughts sometimes, and just having a quiet hour, even if it's just an hour.
If it's just an hour.
Even if it's just an hour. I think, having my family close in California too is, sometimes I'll say, okay, it's time for you to come over and visit, or I'll go there, or, it's just, it's therapeutic.
That's what I love about the Latin culture.
Yes.
Having the support.
Yeah,
it is.
even though my family, like most of my family is in Florida, but sometimes like my mom is like, hey, do you need me to go there just to kind of like for you and your husband to go on a date night or something, like escape? And they do that a lot. So it's like very supportive. It's good to have family that's supportive,
It is. And I think even if they come over and it gets chaotic, entertaining, it's still a different type of chaos.
Right.
And it's therapeutic in that way. And I have a ton of nieces and nephews that come over and ransack the house, etc. But I just love it.
Great. Yeah.
I love creating a space for them where they can use their imagination and look at doctor things and use the stethoscope and etc. It's so therapeutic.
If they ever want to look at the uterus and ovaries, let me know.
See, we share this.
So as respected women, one of the things I love to ask women is, how do we squash gender bias?
Right.
What do you think?
Well, I think that we start looking at the work, right? The work, the outcomes, quality, and not focus so much on, our gender for the person. So I can give you a great example of that. I think that for me, it was a great opportunity, in February of this year, that the dean asked me to be interim chair. And he knew I had a three-year-old at that time and a 1-year-old at that time, right? Like a couple of months back. And, it was so great that he asked me, because of, my CV and my accomplishments and my work, rather than, oh no, she has two little kids, she's not going to have time for this, It's a commitment, and I take it very seriously. But, I think that's just an example of like, how you can rely on someone to get the work done, even though I wear other hats, right? Might have another full-time job. So I think it's like looking at the work, looking at the quality and what you've done and your progress and how you work with people rather than your gender.
And I'll have to say, as your working colleague, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
You've done just great work.
High five, like my daughter says, high five.
Okay. Over to you, Dr. Flores. So you're going to squash it.
So I think I agree totally. I think you just go. You don't focus on, okay, I am a woman, what type of barriers do I need to break down? I think as a physician, you do the best that you can on the patient's behalf and let the work and the quality speak for itself. I think when it comes to leadership positions, I think surrounding yourself with wisdom and good mentorship and never being afraid to ask for help from either men or women is probably the most valuable thing that I've picked up along the way. I think I do have several female mentors. I ask them a diverse number of things all the time, or I'll text them and say, oh my God, think about the day that I had today, and they help me through. Mm-hmm. I think even some male mentors that I still have from residency. I was just talking to one today by text, and it was just so therapeutic. Today was kind of rough, and I think, understanding that there is gender bias is important. I think, but I think pushing through and not letting that trip you up to where it distracts you from other things, and then being a role model yourself for other females in the field. I think Nadia and I can probably both attest to this. I think for us, it's probably double being women of color and females in surgical fields. I think we've had to kind of push a little extra, if you will, to get to where we are. But she's right. That being recognized is very rewarding. But we have to pass it on to others and take others under our wing, and that I think is super important in squashing gender bias.
So that leads me into my next question, which is about mentorship. What is mentorship to you?
I think mentorship is the lifeline of progression. And I see that because I have had, unfortunately, some not so good mentorship and some good mentorship. And when you compare the two, you see the difference. So I think great mentors take you under their wing and are not afraid not to be the center of attention. And they're not afraid to put you in the limelight and say, hey, this is my mentee. Look at her go. She's something. And she's a force to be reckoned with. I am proven myself very, very fortunate to have male and female mentors. Many of them are surgeons, and some of them are not. Some of them are, leadership from medicine. Some of them are mentors from medical school. And some of them exist in this building. So I think understanding that you have them and that they're a great resource and that they will tell you like it is, even if it's bad or even if you don't like the answer, is very valuable.
I completely agree with you. And I like the honesty, the directness. I think in those moments have challenged me the most to grow when I'm being mentored. But I love to give that back when I'm mentoring.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything, that Dr. Flores said, because I think it's important to have mentors in all aspects of your life, even if you're, mid-career towards the end of your career. It's always there's always going to be someone that knows more about a subject or a certain thing that can guide you. And I think honesty is the best thing because they look at you and objectively they can say, hey, I think you should go this way. Or, I often call my mentors from residency, from fellowship. I mean, when I have a challenge or, I have something I'm struggling with, just to kind of get a different perspective, like somebody else looking from the outside So I think they're very important.
Okay, so given both of your specialties, I'm going to ask this question a certain way. Okay. If you're not on call and it's Saturday at 10 a.m., what are you going to be up to, Dr. Gomez?
I am going to be in Turkish school. So I'm currently learning Turkish, and it's Saturday at 10 a.m. Every Saturday, I am there with my group that's learning, This is an adult class, and it's for beginners, and it's you're either married to someone that's Turkish, like myself, or your kids, are Turkish, or maybe you're like, I don't know, you're not first degree generation, but, you're learning Turkish as a second language.
It's so super cool.
Yes.
Wow. Okay, so you're not on call.
Yes.
And it's 10 a.m. on a Saturday. What's Dr. Flores doing?
I am sitting in the bleachers at the Twins softball game where they are running around with you know, trying to hit home runs, and then as competitive as those girls are, getting upset because they have not hit a home run every single time that they're up.
Competitive.
Yes, very competitive. They're fierce.
So let's
What are you doing at
10 a.m. on a Saturday. Wow. Okay. So
bringing it back?
gonna bring it back to me. Every Saturday morning I'm at the gym, and then after that I call and check in with my boys. Both my sons are serving in the military. They're both in the Marine Corps. So Saturdays are checking with them, make sure they're doing their thing correctly and developing as young men in the military. And then Saturday mornings end with a hike typically. When I moved to Vegas 3 years ago, I fell in love with hiking. And so I am an avid hiker. That's typically what I'm up to. Those are the 3 strong forces in my life on Saturday mornings. So thank you for the question. Let's look back and pretend we're 25 for a second.
Hey, roll.
That was all a blur, right? Those years? Okay.
What you
Telling her. Yeah. Besides what we were drinking at Starbucks, you tell your 25-year-old self?
You're gonna love your future. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I think you're gonna be in a good place. You know, happy and accomplished, and just don't worry. You're on the right track.
It's going to be okay.
It's going to be okay. Same. It is going to be okay. You are going to make it, and you're going to be phenomenal. And your patients will love you for it.
I love it. I love it.
High five.
Okay, ladies, we're going to close it out on a hugger. May I hug?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for joining me today. Thank you.
Anytime. No, you have to come back. there has to be another
Yes. Yes. Progression.
series.